Thank you so much for joining us. I can see people are from different regions. I'm glad that you can make out time and join us today. Welcome to Tableau Server Talks by Server Admin DUG APAC. So unlike the previous meetups that we had, which are lengthy 45 minutes and 30-minute session. So this time we have kept it like 10 to 15 minutes of talk, the Turbo Talks, so that you will be very fast with the Tableau server and the kind of topics that our speakers are going to cover. So are interesting and obviously the good topics that we had today. Let's look at the agenda. And also before the agenda, we shared this before as well, why we had to start server admin DUG specifically, because we have lots of local user groups and developer centric user groups, and there are many user groups, and obviously the data family is very interested and very active in community events and the user group events like this. But the reason why we came up with the server admins DUG specifically is to give the server side of topics more to the data family, and as well as to let everybody know server more better than before, because our developers, the community members, the data family members, or the analysts, they build beautiful dashboards with more insights in it. But the server admins are the key people who takes that those beautifully built dashboards to the business. So we are the bridge. So that's the importance why we have started this user group, to make it more easy for everybody. It's not should be only with the IT or anywhere. Server admin, the key core activities that we do, it has to go to the all the platform users. Shouldn't just stick with one. So that's the reason we started. And let's get into the agenda. What we have today. Okay. As I said, we have quick talks today. Like the first is like my Tableau Sandbox by Michael. Uh, he's TUG ambassador and with a lots of certifications you will see in a while. And he's going to explain us, or he's going to show us like how you should build a Tableau Sandbox for your personal use, and how to start with the setup and those kind of activities with which you can improve your Tableau knowledge a lot. And the next topic is by Laksh, which is interpreting performance recording on a Tableau server. So quite at times it's like the dashboards does better in Tableau desktop, but we see the load times are less, or the loading takes a lot of time on Tableau server. So how you can use the performance recording which is already there in Tableau server to interpret where exactly it is taking time. So is it taking time on the SQL side, or is it taking time on the building the entire layout, or is it taking time in the data connection between Tableau server to that database? So where it is taking time, and how to interpret that performance recording by using Tableau server. That is by Lakshmi Dhamija. He's DelhiTUG leader, and he's been with community since last 4 years. And the next interesting topic, it's like how I use Logshare. So Logshare is an open source utility tool which you can use to analyze Tableau server. So let's say you have a single node Tableau server or a two node Tableau server which is being used since a while. Okay. And you want to expand it. And what are the aspects that you should consider? How you should do the analysis to scale out or scale up your Tableau server. So in those kind of times, Logshare will help you a lot. So you will see how to use the Logshare, what are the dashboards that you will get out of Logshare. So all of these things, Kamesh will show us. Also, Kamesh is a senior BI administrator with having experience into different BI tools. He's been with the server TUG, which are we leading quite a while now. So he's going to share his experience on the Logshare and how to use it. The last and most useful on a day-to-day basis, which is like build your own monitoring views using the Postgres. So we all know that Tableau server gets shipped with a Postgres repository as a built-in repository when you install a Tableau server. So what it does, it captures all of the information that is related to your Tableau server. So be it like which user is logging in what time, what extract is taking how much time, or which project has been created when. So all of the each and everything that you do on a Tableau server will get recorded onto your Postgres repository. So in the session by Jim, we'll quickly see how we can build some of the monitoring views which helps a core server administrator on a day-to-day basis. So that will be taken by Jim, who is again the TUG ambassador. We have, and he's a lead on the Tableau team that he's leading there. So he's also quite a lot of experienced guy, and all of the speakers, not just Jim, so all of the Michael, Laksh, Kamesh, and Jim, so all of the guys that we have today, it's like a bunch. So let's get into it. Michael, hand over to you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. So thank you for having me. My name's Michael Perillo. I am a user group leader out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Also a Tableau ambassador. As you can see, I've got a number of certifications around Tableau, Alteryx, and AWS. Huge fan of Tableau. I've been using the product now about a decade, and that's been in both Tableau Server, Tableau Desktop, pretty much all the applications. And we'll talk a little bit about I feel how I got pretty good at it. So we'll get started. What we're going to talk about today is how you build out your own Tableau sandbox. So really the whole point of this is you want to learn Tableau, whether it be Tableau Desktop or Tableau Server. Maybe you see some of the newer features with Prep, Conductor, and if you're at work, and you're fortunate enough to be a Tableau Server administrator, maybe you get an opportunity to play with this stuff. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes you're in a position where you want to learn how to get good at this, how to use it, maybe get into a position where one day you could be a server admin, a site admin, a developer, whatever it might be, and just don't have necessarily the resources at work to do that. The way that I like to kind of test drive software and learn about some of these new things is building out my own sandbox. And why do we do that? What are the benefits of building out a sandbox? Well, zero to low cost. In the example that I'm going to talk about, I'm actually using a spare desktop computer that I kind of built up years ago, and it's just been sitting there. And I thought, hey, let's turn this into a server, multiple servers, some desktop. Let's start playing with Linux, maybe some open source tools. And we're going to show you kind of how I did that. And this gives you the ability to practice and learn on your own. Like I said, if you're stifled at work, you don't have the resources, the tools, the servers to play with, the buy-in from leadership, maybe from your peers or colleagues. This is a great way to test drive everything that we're going to talk about today and all the other presentations, performance recording, Logshare, Tableau, Tabon, Viz Alerts, all of these things you can play with. How do I tap into the Postgres? You're going to be able to do that on your own. And certification. You saw I've got a number of certifications, and really the best way to prep for certification is to have that hands-on experience, especially for Tableau Server. If you haven't done something, there's only so much you can really understand or learn, by reading. You have to do it, and this is a great way to really get that hands-on. As I mentioned, why the sandbox? We talked about the benefits. So here's a lot of the things that you can do, and by no means is this the extended list. This thing can go on and on, but you want to be able to install, upgrade, backup, restore. You want to test, in scenarios if you're managing a server. If I have a node go down, what happens? Is that going to take down everything, or how do I make sure that I can configure it and have some stability? This is what your sandbox can allow you to do, is play with these scenarios. If you're fortunate enough to work in an air-gapped environment where there's no internet, your hands are tied. This is a great way for you to kind of practice in that environment, challenge yourself, and try to figure out how can you deliver Tableau services without internet access. What if your IP addresses change? These are all things that you can't necessarily do at your job. And you're saying, well, there's the cloud. Sure, there's the cloud, but there's only so much maybe free services that you can get before you're going to have to start paying. So I'm all for doing the cloud. Cloud is super fast, super easy. Definitely need to learn that too. But this is, again, low cost, low entry way for you to kind of build out your own environment. So some of the resources we're going to look at today, or you'll have at your disposal, is we're going to look at VirtualBox. That is the platform that I'm using, and you're going to kind of see today how I was able to use VirtualBox to build out different environments, different scenarios, and again, kind of be successful, with this endeavor. The Microsoft Server evaluation software, key component. So you've got VirtualBox installed. You want to test drive Tableau Server, you need operating systems. Microsoft gives you evaluation software up to 180 days for Server, for SQL, for Windows 10. All of those things are out there, and you'll have links, where to get that. You want to try your hands at Linux, free. You can download that, test drive that, install Tableau Server, and upskill. Open source product that we talked about, Tabmon, Tableau, Logshare, etc. Those are all out there. Those are things that you can start to play with and get really good at. Build up your profile, build up the resume, so that you can actually do these things, having that real world hands-on experience. I do have a blog that I put out too, so you'll have a link there, that I kind of walk you through how I built this and what do you need to kind of build out your VirtualBox. But we'll quickly kind of go through that. As I mentioned, one of the things that I like to do is kind of test new products and features. So, coincidentally today I got my email announcing that the 21.2 release is ready for download and testing. I'm excited. So this is another great way for me to download all the bits, desktop server, and start playing with it so it doesn't impact my work environment or my laptop. Out of sight, out of mind, and I'll be able to get to play with that here shortly. So the Tableau Sandbox, what does my system look like? So I've got a HP desktop. It's running an Intel i7 processor, dual core. So again, it's not state of the art. This is an older machine, but it does its job. It's got 32 gigs of memory. It's got 2 solid state hard drives in there. All my apps and everything that I do, aside from Windows, everything's installed on the D drive, and we'll take a look at that, provided everything works out with connectivity here. I'm on Wi-Fi, so again, we'll see how the performance goes, but nothing crazy, and it's running Windows 10. When we look at my VirtualBox environment, the great thing is that you can install all these operating systems, and you can kind of see that up in the upper left corner. I've got my Linux, I've got my Windows 10, I've got my server operating systems. Once you install those base operating systems, you can link to those. So it's not like you're having to reinstall or configure Windows from the ground up or Linux from the ground up each and every time. Every platform, every software can run off of the base of that. And that's the really cool thing about virtualization. Once it's done, it's done. And those links that I sent you, or you'll get, that have those evaluation versions, those are already fully deployed versions of Windows Server. Some of them have Active Directory in them. Some of them have, SQL Server. So they're full-blown kind of enterprise instances that you get to play with. That's not necessarily something that you might get to do, again, on your own or at work in a traditional environment. So this gives you really the flexibility of enterprise capabilities at your fingertips. And you can see I've got some Tableau server machines on there. I've got a TabPy instance, some older versions of Tableau server, 2019.4, 2020.1. These are great scenarios that if I had a version and I wanted to do maybe an in-place upgrade or start from new and back up and restore, I can do that. I want to quickly go through what this configuration looks like, because as you build out a Tableau server virtual environment, there might be some little nuances that may take you time, and I want to reduce that time so you can kind of see what this looks like. When you go into a machine configuration, you're going to get a number of ways to configure this. On the general configuration tab on this advanced menu, I'm just doing some, I want to be able to share my copy paste scenarios, between my host and my physical machine. So that's why I've got bidirectional up there. For the system, as you can see, I'm allocating 4 cores to this. And then you're like, wait, I thought Tableau required 8 cores. It does to install. But once it's installed, you can actually pull that back down to 4 cores. Tableau will allow you to do that kind of in that POC mode. Granted, it is not going to be fast. It's not going to probably be fun for you to wait for things to, pop up, but it does work. And again, since I'm only running on a dual core for that host system, I do kind of need as many CPUs as I can get. Display, we've got some information there. Video memory, I can up that, decrease that, however you'd like. The storage, again, you can kind of see here that I'm attaching the Windows Server virtual hard disk that I downloaded as an evaluation. So I've got 180 days to play with that. That's great. I've got the Tableau Server 2019.4, which I did install, and you'll take a look shortly. Audio, no worries. The network. Now here I'm going to spend a little time because in order to really make this work in an environment where you have maybe your initial node and then some additional nodes, you kind of want to set up a separate network aside from the default configuration. So when you install VirtualBox for the first time and you install maybe like an operating system like Windows and no configuration, and you open up the virtual machine and you open up Windows within that, you can get to the internet, because what that's doing, it's feeding off of your host, your own machine's network connection. Now, in an environment where I want to test a Tableau server where I've got an initial node and additional nodes, I want them to be able to talk to one another. And you can't really do that if they're feeding off of your single wireless connection or physical adapter. So you kind of artificially create an adapter for that. And the way that you do that is when you first open up VirtualBox, you can go to the file and preferences, and you can add your own network in there. And I just call mine the Tableau network. And I give it a nice IP address range, DHCP kind of thing, and let it go. And that's kind of what we saw here is once I configure that and I go through and I install and I configure my machine, it's going to recognize that, hey, there's a couple networks. Which one do you want to use? And this way, when I install my initial node and my additional nodes, they're able to pick up almost like a router, get their own IP address assigned and so forth. So it doesn't affect my machine. It's their own little private network. Here we got some serial ports, USB, shared folders. So the shared folders is actually feeding off of, again, my host machine's D drive, the downloads. So when you open up this machine, you're going to see that, hey, it's got a network folder where it can access shared files, my drivers, my software, all of this great stuff. And the user interface. So let's go ahead and kind of flip over, and we're going to see this in action. So what you're seeing is my machine on the outside, which I am using kind of TeamViewer to remote into that HP desktop sitting on my floor. And that's what you see kind of here. And then with VirtualBox, this is the HP. I've launched it, and now here's the virtualized window, and it's showing the Tableau Services Manager. So I've got, this is the configuration that we just kind of went through. You can see the memory, the CPUs, all of that great stuff, the network adapters, and I've launched the TSM. Now, if I wanted to launch another instance of Tableau, again, granted, I'm kind of limited, at least on this machine, with resources, memory and CPU and so forth, but I can do it. If I wanted to launch a TabPy instance and test drive TabPy or Logshark or TabJolt, TabMon, those types of things, I've got those loaded on my Tableau server monitoring server. So I could spin those up and I can interface with my Tableau server environment. So again, great way to kind of evolve and create your own sandbox environment. All of this stuff is free. None of this, aside from my desktop, costs me anything. Just your time, a little bit of investigation if you've never used a VirtualBox before, how to set up maybe the network. But like I said, I try to get some screenshots to kind of give you some tips along the way if this is something you're interested in. So that's all I got. Hopefully, you go out, do your own sandbox. I think it's again a great way to learn, get certified, upskill, do all these great things.
Thanks a lot, Michael, for joining us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it helps a lot. It always quite helpful, right, when you can try things on your own, and so in terms of the certifications or the practice, or you become the expertise level, you build that expertise. So building these sandboxes helps a lot. So far I am using the AWS cloud to do all of my stuff, but now yeah, I'll go with the cheap priceless option by you.
Yep, I hear
Yeah.
you. Yeah, the cloud's great. This is just an alternative.
Yeah, exactly. It's great, but you have to pay, right? So
Yep.
yeah, we'll see. So yeah, thanks a lot, Michael, again for joining us today, and having you here is it's a lot. Guys, if you have any questions, you can use Q&A box in the options there. Don't post any questions in the chat section. Use Q&A box instead. So we'll get back to you as soon as the session is over. So now we have next session by Lakshay Dhamija on the performance recording, which helps quite a lot on a day-to-day basis when you are troubleshooting with any performance issues of the dashboards, specific dashboards. It helps a lot. Hand over to you, Laksh.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, APAC Server TUG, for this opportunity. I am Lakshay Dhamija. Currently, I am working as BI Process Manager at American Express. I have been associated with DelhiTUG, as told by Lakshmi, for last almost 4 years. Currently, I am leading that group. So today, I will be explaining you about performance recording feature, how to enable that, and how to interpret that for Tableau server. So just to start with, I have set up So I have set up a server, Tableau server, onto a AWS environment, and this is just with default settings. So for enabling performance recording, what I need to do is I need to go to the settings on my Tableau server. So this feature specifically needs to be enabled for each site individually. So currently I am enabling it for my personal site. So what I can do is I can directly search for performance under the settings option. Here I can see workbook performance metrics. So I want to record workbook performance metrics. I click on this and save it. Next thing what I need to do is I will just navigate to the report for which I want to record my performance stats, and I need to interpret that to improve my dashboard and worksheets. So for doing that, like we have enabled performance recording for our site, but how does Tableau get to know that you want performance stats for a particular session which you are working on? So for that, what we need to do is we need to enter record performance equal to yes and just before the session ID in our URL. So this is my session ID at the end of my URL. Just before that, I want to record performance for this particular dashboard in this session and press enter. So once I do that, I can see a performance option over here, which wasn't there before. So now I will be using this dashboard as per my requirement. So I have this particular worksheet. What I'll do, I just open all the worksheets once. I'll change a filter for this particular worksheet. What is happening at the backend? Tableau is recording all this data into a particular dashboard form and preparing that dashboard for me. So that particular dashboard consists all the data uh, till this point in time. So now I have navigated to 4 or 5 worksheets in my dashboard. Now I want to review my performance. Uh, what I'll do, I'll just click on performance option. This prepares a dashboard for me. So this performance summary dashboard uh, gives me all the details which have been recorded during this particular time. What I'll do, I'll just click on download in the form of Tableau workbook. And open it on my Tableau desktop. So why we are opening it onto Tableau desktop is because there are basically two main dashboards which are created during this performance recording feature. One of them is performance summary and another one of them is details views. So as seen over here, we can only see performance summary. But when we download that particular dashboard, what we can do is we can see detailed views dashboard as well. And then we have all the individual worksheets created for us. So what exactly do we need this performance recording for? We can create a recording to evaluate the performance of our workbook. Once we have completed the recording, we download that and observe what all performance features have taken place. So this performance summary dashboard consists of basically 3 worksheets. First one is the timeline. So in this particular section, what we can see is, so workbook. So I did not navigate to a new workbook. I just enabled it onto my existing workbook and then started my performance recording feature. So why it is giving null is because I did not change my workbook. So all this data is for the workbook which I was using and which is stocks. So this particular column displays me the dashboard for which I am seeing the data. Then this column gives me all the worksheets which I have navigated. And when I was navigating, there were several steps taking place. So this column gives me all the individual events taking place while I was navigating. Now this is the timeline column. So this gives me the time which has elapsed till now from the start of Tableau server for a particular event to get completed, or till now if it is in process. Now second section for me is events sorted by time. So this basically gives me all the events which have taken place from the highest time, taking the highest time to the lowest time. Each different color denotes a different event which has taken place. So now, as you can see, this query column is empty. Query section is empty. So what this query section gives us is, there is an option. Okay, so this does not have complete data. Okay. So there was an event which took place, which was executing query. So when I click on executing query event on in this event column, or either on the timeline column as well, what I can see is the query which was run at the backend gets populated over here. So what we can do now is, if our query is taking place, we can see from here all the timings. So currently we are referring to executing query. Currently it is taking only 0.03 seconds, but if in case it is taking like a minute, but it is much more than expected, then what we can do, we can work on this particular query and get it tuned along with our data administration team for a better performance of our dashboard. So this was the performance summary dashboard. Now we will move to detailed view. So the detailed view dashboard is more so it gives us a slightly in-depth view of the data which we were seeing in the timeline view. Some advanced Tableau developers use this data for improving the performance of their dashboard on Tableau server. So what happens sometimes is dashboard is working fine in the Tableau desktop, but it is taking time when that particular dashboard is run on the Tableau server. So what users do, they start the recording. After that, they extract this performance recording data, and here, as you can see, they can see time taken by each particular event in place. So now if we click on a particular, so I just right now have highlighted over particular event. So I can see further more details what have, so during this executing of command, I can see elapsed time was 4.097 seconds. Start time was 3074.85 seconds with respect to when the Tableau server was started, or when I logged into my Tableau server when the session had started. So this is the request ID which I can see, and then the URL. So if I click on this, I can see executing command. So in the first section, I can see the depth. So what all events have taken place and how much time each event has taken. So now in the second, I can basically select so which component I want to view. So there are three particular components which I get the data for. One is exclusive CPU, other one is inclusive CPU, and third one is elapsed time. So a particular event might be consuming more CPU power, or might be taking more lapse time than expected. So accordingly, we can select that filter over here and work on how to improve the performance of my particular dashboard. So as we can see, exclusive CPU time is useful for identifying activities that consume majority of the CPU. Inclusive CPU time is useful for identifying high level activities. So all the activities which are happening, so at the top are the major activities, and activities lower down are spawned by high level activities. So like if we click on a particular dashboard, there is not only one process taking place, but when we click on a dashboard, worksheet loads filters which are automatic, set by default are run, and then the query at the backend is run. So all these are smaller processes which are being spawned by higher level activity at the top. So when we go at the bottom, we can see all those smaller processes. So we can see over here, this event only took 4.097 seconds, but still this particular event has used the exclusive maximum amount of CPU. Why is that? So you can see there is a column count. So executing command has taken place 12 times when I was navigating through my dashboard during performance recording. So it is the total time duration which has passed for 12 queries to be run. So what we need to do now is we need to go into each particular query and there filter out which query is taking more time than expected. We cannot just go to the performance summary, analyze that this particular executing query was taking most time. So we need to look into the individual queries as well for a more detailed. So this is how we basically interpret a performance recording and activate that performance recording on my Tableau. So if you guys have any question related to this, you can just put into Q&A box and I'll be happy to take those up. Thank you. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thanks, Lakshmi. It was quite a great session. So yes, performance recording I use personally a lot. Like, so if there is a specific dashboard issue or a specific issue with only one view or something like that, right? So we cannot look all over the server, like, so it comes very handy, and we can come to a quick conclusion when we are dealing with a one dashboard specific performance issues. Our next session by Kamesh, who's going to explain us or show us a little intro about how Logshare, which is for server analysis, like you can see how the CPU or how the RAM or which dashboards are using a lot of things on server. So Kamesh is going to cover up on that. Over to you, Kamesh.
Yes, thanks, Lakshmi. Am I audible? Can you please confirm?
Yes, Kamesh, you're audible.
Yes, thanks for the question. Just sharing my screen, guys. Hi everyone. A very good morning, very good afternoon, as well as a very good evening. I think there are so many people who have joined from a different time zones. Thank you all for joining this session. So here with you guys. So this is Kamesh, Surya. So I'm having 7+ years of experience of working with working with Tableau, as well as different BI tools, SAS and Power BI, different things. And I'm associated with the Tableau server since almost 5 to 6 years. That's all, a small brief introduction about myself. Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Lakshmi, for the very good session. Yes, so all you guys know, we know that generally the sharks hunt for food, but here when it comes to our case, our shark hunt for logs. So that means this is a free tool, so which was provided by the Tableau. So then we have to use this tool to analyze the thing. So from the Tableau server end. So that means, let me share you another slide. Yeah, I mean, we all know that. So many of us may aware of this tool, but as I have very limited time today, I just want to introduce what is this tool about. I mean, I'm just going to give you a small demo how we need to run this tool on your desktops. Maybe it could be, so then it's a free tool. You can run this tool on your local machine as well, if you have a log files. Okay, that could be it. So as we all know, there are many log files inside our Tableau server and the Tableau desktop. So we know that. So the Logshare not only can be used to analyze the logs from the Tableau server, it can also be used to analyze the logs from your Tableau desktop logs also. Okay, and sometimes we need to look through it to find the possible root cause of our problem. So yes, in many of the time, so many of the scenarios as a Tableau server admin, we need to figure it out. So what's the problem exactly is that? So before raising a case with the Tableau or not. So before that, so then we need to figure it out. So what's the problem is exactly. So suppose you're maintaining a single node cluster, so that could be easy for you to get the logs and to analyze the logs and to see each and every service, and where the error message is. So then you have, I can say in limited time, so then you can be able to find so what's the error is exactly with that log. But when it comes to a high availability cluster, like if suppose my cluster and my cluster design is having more than 3 nodes or more than 7 or 10 or whatever it may be. That's okay, because in my experience, once I work for 12 node cluster, there it's very difficult for me to analyze the logs for each and every node where that particular service got failed or where the errors are. So to analyze each and everything in a better manner, so I can't say the 100% so that we can do the analyze with the use of a Logshare, but at least the Logshare is a tool can save us our time, so more than 50 to 60% for sure. So for that reason, so we are using the Tableau Logshare as a tool, and it's as I said, so it's a simple, and the Logshare is a simple command line utility that you can run against the Tableau logs to generate the set of outputs. So that will go into. So that means whenever I run the Logshare with the use of my log file, so it will going to generate 14 to 15 types of dashboards, and which will show us where the error is exactly. And as I said, so it's an open source, and it's a self-service tool. So anyone can play with this tool, as well as, so if suppose you're very good at your coding skills and all, so if suppose you have such capability, you can go and you can change the code also accordingly to your requirements. That is the biggest advantage from this. And yeah, what are all the system requirements? Generally, it requires the Logshare. So it's very easy, and you should have a 64-bit version of the window. And whenever you're trying to run your Logshare in your system, so you should have the local administrator permissions, and it should be aligned with, so it should be more than that desktop version could be 10.5 or later to view all the workbooks. And see, as I said, so there is no need of having this tool on the server, because if you have, you all know that, so if you have a permission to copy your log files to your local machine to analyze the thing, so you can go ahead and you can do it, whichever is required. And when it goes to this, how can we install this? So just going to share this. So it's a simple link, as I already provided in this presentation. So it's a very simple link, which was provided by Tableau. Just what you do is that just click on this download short from Windows version 4.2.1. And guys, so this Logshare is for Windows. So currently it is for the Windows, and also all the files and all the backend files and the code, everything is available from the GitHub. So you can play with all these things, so which were available at left hand side of your panel. So you can go each and every option, and you can play around with this tool. And it's running the Logshare from any of the directory. So, I mean, you need to change the environment variables or not. So for this purpose of today, I just want to show it. So how it will work so generally in our local systems. As I said, just download it. Once you download this file, the file should be like this. So, so that means I just unzip this Logshare files. So if I open this, so these are all the different supporting files and application files and everything. Guys, just remember, no need to install anything. This is the tool itself is working. If everything is clear and everything has downloaded correctly from your from the Tableau from that particular URL. Okay, just simple. It's very simple. Just I just want to show how it will works. Just open your command prompt as a run as administrator and change the directories where the Logshare is available. Okay. Yeah, I just open my command prompt, and here I just want to change my directory here. Because this Logshare tool is currently available on my desktop only. So that's the reason I'm just changing to my desktop directory.
Kamesh, we can see your PowerPoint presentation only, not the command prompt.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Are you able to see now?
No, you might have to stop screen share and then do it again with the, instead of selecting a specific app, you can select desktop.
Some issue. I think you're able to see my.
Yes, yes, no,
Yes, we can see now.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. This is the command prompt currently. I'm just running few of the commands because. Okay. I'm just changing my directory because the Logshare is available on my desktop, as I said. So I just want to cross check whether my Logshare has installed correctly or not, whether it is showing, I mean, it is showing all the things which are related to Logshare. I'm just checking, just running another command called Logshare help. Okay, once I run this command, so it is showing all the things and all the options which are all available with the Logshare tool. It's a very simple. If you come down, so there are all different options are here. See, in general, whenever I'm trying to run this Logshare tool, the output files can be generated on the, Logshare directory. But also there is one more option is there. You can also publish all the dashboards of which the Logshare will going to create also into your Tableau server. Okay, so these are all the different options. I think I'm just running. I'm running another command. Yeah, this is the command where my zip logs are available. Guys, just remember that it should have a file name as ziplogs. zip. So that means if suppose you are having ziplogs1 or ziplogs2, it may throw so many errors. So just be careful while running this command. Just Logshare and where the ziplogs are available currently. So here in my case, just all the log files are available with only the single node. If I run this command, so it is not throwing any error. So that means it is creating my all the dashboards with the help of the logs. Yes, guys. So this is all the things which will give at the end. So what are all the data it has writes in the statistics? What are all the different things? I quickly jump into the output file. So Lakshmi, are you able to see my screen now for the output files from the log file, Logshare?
No, we are seeing command prompt.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, yes. See, guys, this is the Logshare. So then what I explained, so this is the Logshare. Is the tool so currently available on my desktop. I just open this, and here the output and the logs. It just created with the timestamp 9:57 AM IST. So if I open the output, and so on the recent timestamp, so it has created the hyper as well as the workbooks, but we only require the workbooks. And these are all the different types of workbooks, and we can go whatever you want, and you can check so where the error is erases. I will give you a small example. Just I have only 1 minute of time. Just I open this one. So this is all about the Tableau config. So this is related to the Tableau config. So which has showed me. So what are all the processes are available, and what are all the things are available, what are the services are available, and which are in which state. So which is in green or red or whatever it may be. So it has to show, and also it will show us the full configuration. So because I just run these commands on only the single node, so that's the reason it hasn't shown everything. So it only showed related to the only the single node things. And one more thing, suppose I open one more workbook. It's an hyper workbook. See, it is showing hyper error overviews. If suppose any errors are there, so it has shown in in a pictorial way. So then you can check. So there are one event and severity fatal. So then you can check this. So it will show us so what's the error is exactly, and we can drop down. So it's all related to what, and it will give us so what's the fatal error is exactly, whether it could be severe or what are all the things that we need to take care. So it will give us a clear idea, so that we have to take the so after that, so then we need to go for a troubleshoot. Yeah, guys. So yes, guys. So just thank you all. If you have anything, just try to run this tool. It's a free tool, as I said. So then try to run it with your desktop logs. And just let me know if you have anything or anything. So on the Q&A session, so then I'm here to help you on this. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you. Thanks, Lakshmi. Over to Jim.
Thanks, Kamesh. There is a question in the Q&A box for you. For Logshare, what specifically out of the output do you found the most useful? This is the question is from Eric. So they have been running Logshare for some time, and there are many workbooks that contains a lot of information. Uh, do you review or track back the error from any dashboards, or how do you really use the dashboards? Because even we have come across the same, right? So when you look at the output folder, so there are so many workbooks that you see in there. It's not just one or two. For each specific area, there are different dashboards, different workbooks. So what are the most dashboards that you use? And so you can share your experience on that.
Yeah, sure. Now or
Yeah, you can share now, or you can answer the question in the chat box. That's
yeah, guys, if you see, as I said, so if I open this, the configuration files, I mean, in a general sense, I'm just talking about in a configuration file for the full configuration. If suppose I want to scale, I mean, I want to scale up my servers or I need to add anything. So, I mean, generally what happens, so whenever we are trying to get an help from the Tableau, they're all asking us to share our log files regarding that. So before sharing that, so we are also, I mean, we are all in person can able to analyze what it is exactly. I mean, we may forgot, so then what's exactly, or maybe somebody from your team has already designed the cluster, and I think you're all not aware of each and everything. So in that particular reason, so then you can come here and you can check so what it is exactly. Because if you check in the log and while using the log files and checking, searching for a search, I mean, for a search word, so it's very difficult for you to get it, each and everything. But if you come here, so you can get each and everything from here. So what is the host and what are all the things? What are all the things? So then he take care. So when designing your cluster. So that's a simple example. So like, if suppose when it comes to an hyper, as I said, I will give you here. It's very clearly mentioned here. Even from the hyperlinks, it can be used to identify internal or the data source errors associated with building queries and the extracts. So for each and every workbook and each and every design of this workbook, so then it has given, so what hyper workbook will give us the insights. So yes, it's very clear. And if you go with another workbook, suppose this is the workbook, which are all related to how it will get synchronized. I mean, how the in-memory can be flushed out, or if any issues with your in-memory. So that you can come here and then check so that how the zookeeper will work and what are all the things, so then we have to take care. So, I mean, it will gives us a clear idea what it is exactly. It will display the information about error and the fatal level events from the zookeeper nodes. So we can use the different filters, because I don't have much information to show here, because I'm using only one node for the for this presentation purpose. Yeah, it's in simple. Yeah, it will gives us the clear idea what it is exactly the one refer to. And if you have any doubts or anything, you can reach me on my personal mail ID, what I showed. So then I'm happy to help you out, guys. Or also you can reach me on TUG.
thanks, Kamesh. To add on to that point, Eric, even we use this Logshare a lot. So the most of the times that I have used it in my what do you say, the organization, it's like so we were having on an n cluster, right? So n number of nodes that we have, and we wanted to expand it to n+2 or n+5, n+3, whatever the number of nodes that you would like to add. So in those scenarios, it helps me a lot to see how the actual real traffic over the period of time that we have selected that log files, which are giving, which we were giving as an input to the Logshare. Let's say when we generated the snapshot, you might have put it like 10 days or 1 week. So depends on the time. I look at the same dashboards like Apache and the backgrounders, how busy the backgrounders are doing and how much delay or wait times that are there in the background tasks that it is doing, along with the art dashboard, which gives me a clear cut idea on how the different processes are doing. To answer Ramesh Vemuri's question, yes, one of these dashboards will give us which process is becoming down or which process is becoming killed by the Tableau Services Manager that we had. So we know that there is a certain amount of CPU or RAM can be utilized by one specific process. So if any process, be it a SQL or be it any other process, be it SQL, Portal, or any other process, backgrounder, data engine, if it is using RAM or CPU for consistent amount of time, more than 90%, then it seems like your Tableau Services Manager will kill, the Tableau Application Services process will kill that specific process. So even how many times it is killing processes and how many times it is restarting the processes. So even those, that data also will be collected and that will be also displayed in the dashboards which come along this part. Even that is also there. So yes, depends on what you are trying to achieve. You can concentrate only on those specific dashboards. So yeah, we are running out of time, so I'm handovering it to Jim. So it's up to you, Jim. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And well, first of all, thanks for having me here. I'm happy to present some, well, hopefully simple tips and tricks to build subscriptions to aid your server management. So I'm Jim. I'm from the Netherlands, and I work at Volker Wessels as their Tableau lead since just over a year. Before I worked with Tableau for 7 years already, and now is the first time that I'm actually in a role where I'm responsible for a Tableau server, which meant I had to learn a lot in the last year, and I wanted to, well, share some of those learnings and the ways that I'm trying to keep, well, control over my Tableau server, or at least share some information about it with other people. So we're going to talk about server management, and I'm going to show you 3 reports that I've kind of built to communicate or monitor my server. I'm going to look at managing licenses, monitoring extract refreshes, and monitoring new content. But first of all, why would you even build your own views? We've just seen kind of the Logshare reports. There are standardized monitoring views from Tableau. And those are great, but there's a couple of things with those. First of all, they're not always showing exactly what I wanted to see. And secondly, they're only available for site and server admins, which means that, for example, my manager, who's not a server admin, is not able to see how many licenses we still have, or he's not able to see what new content has been published. And there's plenty of other kind of business stakeholders who may not be able to have access to these reports, at least if you stick with the default reporting. So how did I work around that? I'm using the Tableau Postgres database, the backend database that contains all the metadata, contains all, well, pretty much all the information of how many workbooks are on the server, which users are on the server, but also the activities of those users. And then I'm combining that with Tableau, obviously, connecting with Tableau, building a couple of simple tables. Typically, maybe you could also build something more fancy, but I'm sticking with tables. And then I'm subscribing myself and my other business users to those tables, so they can get a email blast whenever something is happening, or just a regular update on how to what's the status of things. So we don't have a lot of time, so I might go a bit quickly. I'll share the workbook, which contains all 3 of these reports, along with the Postgres connections later with you. So don't worry too much if you, well, if you can't, you don't need to take all the notes of the slides, but it should all be in the workbook later. So first, we're going to look at managing licenses. So what's the goal? I want to find the number of users per license type and compare that to the number of available licenses for that type. In my case, I've specified it even further to only look at viewer licenses. And since, well, we see that the number of viewer licenses is changing a lot, we're also expanding the user license, the licenses for viewers quite a bit. Typically, our creators are a lot more stable and also a lot more predictable when they are going to be increased. And why do I want to monitor this? Well, like I said, it's changing. We're all the time we're trying to figure out, okay, which users are not using their licenses, so we can maybe remove those licenses, assign them to other people. And as we're growing our Tableau community internally, from time to time we need to purchase additional licensing, and you don't want to be late with that. Once you hit the limit, it's a little tricky, and I mean, obviously it's going to take some time to get approvals for new purchases. And you don't want to have to tell people that they have to wait because you don't have a license for them, at least if you can avoid it. So that's why I'm doing all of this. How do I do that? Well, connecting with the Postgres, I'm just using 3 tables. I'm using the users, sites, and site roles table, where the site roles describe kind of the different types of licenses. And well, the rest, I guess, makes sense. You're just going to look at users per site and then assign the site roles. Then I'm making 2 calculated fields. First of all, I want to have like a trigger or a filter. I'm just going to look at the display name from the site roles, which is kind of the friendly name of the licensing. In my case, I'm just looking at viewers. So I'm going to count the number of viewers essentially. And I'm going to compare that against the parameter with the number of viewer licenses. And I'm going to offset that by 20 because I want to get a message once that threshold of, well, less than 20 remaining has been crossed. So that's my trigger. And then secondly, I've made a title calculation just to make it look a bit better. So it's a conditional calculation where if the trigger is right, so if the viewers have exceeded the threshold, it's going to tell me that there's less than 20 viewer licenses remaining, and then suggest me to clean up or purchase extra. Otherwise, well, it should show that there's more than 20 viewer licenses remaining and no action is necessary. So how does the worksheet look? Again, I'm looking at the number of users per display name, so per license type, showing a title, putting the title on the detail and showing that in the title of the worksheet, and then filtering on the trigger here. And that's it. So it's very simple. Once you set up those calculations, and the next steps are to set the subscription. So I'm personally getting a daily subscription on this, but I don't send it to myself if the sheet is empty, right? Because we filtered it on that trigger. So if the threshold has not been crossed, this complete sheet is empty. As such, I don't get an email. So I only get the emails once we're over the threshold. And yeah, one note there. Unfortunately, you could see that I'm using a parameter to define the number of licenses that I have available, the total number of licenses. And that's because I haven't found any way to get this from the Tableau Postgres database. It's one of the few things I couldn't find there. So if you purchased additional licensing, you would have to update that parameter as well. So just keep that in mind. It's not a huge hassle, but it's something to definitely keep in mind. So that's the first report. The second one is slightly more complex, but I think it's still pretty doable, and it has to do with monitoring extract refreshes. Again, the goal here is to get a notification for my extract refreshes. It looks a bit like this table below here. That's what we're going to build. So essentially, I want to know how many extracts have not started yet, how many are in progress, how many failed, and how many were successful today. In my case, we're refreshing all of our extracts in the morning after our data warehouse completes. So it's a fairly easy time. At least it's fairly straightforward. You just want to kind of measure it in the span of a couple of hours, whether it succeeded or not. So it's very useful about getting warnings. This is something I get every 6 a.m. In my mornings. And so when I start up my laptop in the morning, I can check this email, see if everything was okay at 6 a.m. If not, I can double check my Tableau server, see if something has completed now. And if not, I can work with our team to resolve any errors. Also useful, I mean, this is not something that's built into Tableau. Obviously, the owners of data extracts are getting emails when extracts fail, but I'm not the owner of all the extracts. So that's why I needed this to make sure I actually knew if extracts failed. Otherwise, I have to log into the Tableau server every morning, and I'd rather just be warned in my email. So that's why I'm setting it up. So again, how do I build the data? This one actually needs 2 data sources that you need to blend, which is a little bit of a hassle. First of all, we're looking at a data source that contains essentially all the tasks within schedules. So this is kind of the framework of what you expect to happen. So it shows tasks joined with data sources workbooks to kind of know what those tasks are all about, and then the schedules. And then I need a different data source that just uses the background jobs table, and that table contains all the details of the execution of those tasks. I'm not going to go too much into detail of how those are getting combined, But essentially, I'm making 4 different calculated fields to look at the 4 states that an extract can be in. First, I'm going to check if the last started at date, so the last time this job was started, is less than 8 hours ago. Otherwise, it's probably the last time that it ran was yesterday. So in that case, it hasn't started yet for today. For in progress, I'm also looking at things that have started in the last 8 hours but haven't finished in the last 8 hours. So that's probably telling me, well, it started, but it hasn't finished yet, at least not today. And then I'm going to look at the extracts that failed, looking at a failure indicator. I think that has, I think that's kind of a sub calculation that I didn't include here, but there's essentially a failure indicator that tells you whether the result of an extract was a failure. And then finally, if it's completed in the last 8 hours and there's no failure indicator in the finished code, then we're good, and then we have a successful extract. So with these 4 steps, I'm able to define the state of all my extracts, and you can see there's a running sum across, and that has to do with the following. We actually need to evaluate this per task ID. So in my schedule, I might have 60 or 100 tasks. And to get the totals, I'm evaluating them per task and then getting a running sum across the table, which means that the last row of my table will contain the right totals. I could also use a total, then every row would contain the same numbers. It doesn't really matter. Then I'm using a trick, using the last equals 0, also a table calculation. If I do that again down the table, it would mean that my last row would contain a true, and all the other rows would contain a false. I can use that to filter and only show that last row, while still being able to use the table calculations to get the totals for all these numbers. And once I finish that, I'm just hiding all the measures or all the headers except showing the measure names, and it should show me a subscription like this. Again, I'm running this as a daily subscription for myself just after the extract refresh schedule. I'm expecting that my data warehouse has completed and has already kicked off the extracts at the latest by 6 a.m. But you can of course, you can fine tune that to your situation. You could run it more than once per day if you want to as well. And you can, of course, make those timing windows a bit smaller. And then if you wish, you can also filter on specific extract refresh schedules. We're just using one that we kick off every day, but you could use multiples, and you could have multiple subscriptions on that. So this one is a little bit more complex. I would recommend you to look at the Tableau file that we're going to share to figure out exactly how it works. But I hope you understand the concept behind it, and I think it's a very useful, at least useful tool. And then the final part is monitoring new content. This one's pretty straightforward. The goal is here to get a notification, again, weekly or daily, of all the dashboards that have been published to the server. I find it very useful to keep track of new dashboards. I want to know who has been publishing new dashboards. I might want to have a look, see if they're like up to the quality standards that we have. And it's also useful to inform some other people. So in this case, we're just combining workbooks with projects to know kind of in which projects things have been published. We're making just one calculated field with a parameter. And I make this only to see whether I want to see all the published workbooks or just the ones that are new workbooks. The new ones you can identify with the revision number. If it's 1.0, that means the workbook hasn't been published before. If it's a different number, then somebody has kind of republished the dashboard and increased the revision. So that revision is not something the user can set. It's an automatic kind of numbering that Tableau server does. So by using the parameter in this way, you can toggle whether you want to see all or just some workbooks. And this is the sheet essentially looking at the name of the workbook, name of the project, last published date, and the revision. I'm filtering on that calculated field to make sure I can toggle between only the 1.0 versions or all versions. And I can filter on the last published date to figure out if I want to look at everything that's published in the last week, the last day, whatever period you're interested in. And one tip is here to filter out any Sandbox projects. If you are using those on your server, typically those are not that interesting to monitor. So you can exclude any projects that you don't want to monitor in this one, and just make sure you get only the content that you're interested in. For me, I've set this up as a weekly subscription. I get this on Monday to see everything that's been published in the week before, but you can do it daily or on another cadence as well. The audience could be people like server admins, but also product owners, maybe team managers, business users, anyone who's interested. And of course, you can use custom views here to get separate emails. Could be about all published workbooks, only the new workbooks. You could also have it filtered by project to make it very specific for certain audiences. So yeah, of course you can tune this to your situation as well. But I think it's pretty interesting, and especially for the business users or people who are a little bit further away from the technical administration, it's a very useful report to just have an idea of what's happening within the organization. And with that, we've pretty much finished in 15 minutes. I hope these were some interesting tips. And I want to thank you for your attention. I think I saw one question in the Q&A, but it might have been answered already. Okay, yeah, about sharing the workbook. Yes, we're going to share that. Any other questions? Feel free to pop those in the Q&A.
People are quite interested in your workbook.
Very good. Very good. We're definitely going to share that. I've already sent it over to Lakshmi, so
I will share
yeah.
it.
All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I'll just stop sharing and hand back to Lakshmi.
Yeah. So if anyone have any questions, you can still put it in the Q&A. We'll be here for next 5 minutes, and we're happy to answer your questions. Also, if you want to follow us or get to know about the more sessions that we're going to do in the future, or the other activities that the server TUG APAC is going to do, you can follow us any of these channels. Like you can drop us a note on Gmail, or you can follow us on Twitter. The server TUG is the tag. Also, you can join us in the LinkedIn group, which is Tableau Server Admin TUG APAC. So I'll send these as well to you over along with the workbooks and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I see a couple of questions now. For
Have you
favorite external supplier? I'm not using any external supplier for like monitoring dashboards, so I don't have any experience on that. I don't know if any of the other people on the call have any, but
No, even we built the dashboards in house, the one which you created, a similar one, but it's not the new dashboards that we generally look at. We look at the dashboards or the workbooks which haven't been used since last 45 days or 60 days, so that we can just housekeep them. So that's an
yeah.
inbuilt in-house dashboard that we built.
Yeah, we definitely built some more complex monitoring views as well, based on exactly activities. But I wanted to keep a couple of really quick ones here. But yeah, there's definitely tons more you can do with the Postgres.
Yes, also there are many, if you look at the community blogs, there are many dashboards that have been built which you can simply plug into your Postgres. Yes, Mark View is one of them, and he's also having quite a lot of blogs, not just the Postgres. He has on server capacity planning, performances, and so many other things as well. And the good thing here is like the Postgres, it's the same for anyone. It's a customized by Tableau, the Postgres database, and it's same for everyone. So it doesn't matter who created or who built the dashboard. It's just that you change the connection details to your Postgres database. It just works without any issues. Plug and play.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very easy to share these kind of Postgres views, and well, that's why it's so great to be able to share those and well, leverage those from the community, because there's definitely lots of those available. I'm seeing that somebody put up their hand. I'm not sure if you're able to get them to ask their question.
I think Michael
It is
has.
Naveen. Lakshmi, you must be having control.
Yeah, I'm
Basically,
just.
we want to give them access.
Okay, so Naveen has a question. Let me allow him to talk. Naveen, you can ask your questions. I have just allowed you to have to unmute and talk. Okay, maybe it's by mistake.
Maybe.
Okay, all right. So we are closing the session for the day. Special thanks to Michael, Laksh, Kamesh, and Jim. Although the session is it's a server admin TG APAC, but the speakers are from global. So we have Michael from Phoenix and Jim from Netherlands and Laksh from Delhi and Kamesh from Hyderabad. So that's good to have you, all of you guys in here, because these particular sessions, right? If I have to, I mean, being a server admin, even if it is be me myself, it will take hours to explore all of these topics individually. If I have to know how the Logshare works, or if I have to know how the performance recording should be enabled, because even if it is a small thing, I get a lot of questions from the developer side, like, okay, how should we enable the performance recording, or what is the way, what is the easiest way to look at these performance recordings? Or sometimes the questions are like, okay, how do you connect to the repository? So what is the easiest way to get my hands dirty on the repository tables which are already there? And also the most common question is, how do you practice Tableau server? So how do you build Tableau server for your own practice, which Michael has shown us in the beginning in the most easiest and the cheapest way, I would say. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot, guys, to have you here today. So we'll have the next sessions by you individually for more longer time, maybe. Thanks for the day.
Thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks, everyone.